It is week 6 edition of Digging for Wisdom. That's Diggsy. I'm Wizzy. Diggsy, I call you crazy. You call me insane. But the stuff we saw last week can use both of those adjectives and then some. And some people are like, I don't know what's going on. The traditional powers are winning. I love it. I love the parody. I love the madness. I love the fact I'm driving home from a game I'm shooting and finding out that Highland Park's giving up 70 points or gives us 66 points and finding out that Waxahachie may have upset Duncanville, but 7 days later it means nothing because they're getting stomped all over the place by DeSoto. You got to kind of love that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't love it for the teams that are going through it, but I love it for high school football in Texas in general.
We're for the fans. We're not for the play. I mean, we love the players. They make our lives better. But, we're fans at the end of the day, and that's why we love this. It's been incredible. I mean, there have been 2 or 3 times on our Friday night recap show where I'm like, I don't think that score can be right. Like with Terrell earlier this year and then Seagoville and Samuel earlier this past week. I'm like, I don't think that can be right. Oh, it is right. Okay. Seagoville pulls off a big win. Terrell pulls off a dominant win. It has been fun. There was a point, I got a text message saying, did you, while I'm at the Plain and East Prosper game, do you see what's going on over here at the Commerce Winsboro game? I mean, people don't talk to me. Like, this person has never talked to me in 3 years. He wants to know if I know what's going on at Commerce and Winsboro. I'm like, no. And he sends me a screenshot. And Commerce is up 40 points at halftime. Winsboro is our number 1 team in the area, a top 5 team in the state. Commerce, losing by 40 at halftime. It's like, what is going on in this world?
Small school Dixie got his head blown off on that one. His head just exploded. It was crazy. And another walk-off for LD Bell. I mean, I guess that's just, they're going to be their, that's going to be that's what they are. They're the walk-off kings, but that's what they like to do. You give us the ball, don't give us the ball with any time on the clock because we're going to walk it off on you. Just a wild week, a fun week, and it makes you so excited for the next 5 that we have here in the regular season and the playoffs as we go. It's going to be wild. And because it was crazy, you got to give out some flowers at some point.
I do got to give out some flowers. I love flowers. This is one other thing I want to note is, remember, folks, as we're talking about it, this is the big bye week. We only have 140 games. I know Kenny and Ward are excited about it for our Friday night recap because we're going to get to talk about every game in the area because we only have 140 as opposed to 240 this week. But one of the flowers I want to give out, it's a team that they've been close to flowers a couple of times, but I feel like they finally earned it. It is the Joshua Owls. They beat Midlothian in triple overtime in walk-off fashion, very much like LD Bell and Eaton did. And Ward, I'm hoping you have a clip for us because this is live. Coach DeArmond posted this on his Twitter. I think this is just their radio guy or something. And this is how unexpected it was. Just the pure joy of what happened here.
He's in! He scored! He scored! He scored! He scored! He win it! They win it! They won it! They won it! In triple overtime! Down they go! Oh my goodness! They'll be talking about this one for a long time in Joshua. Oh my goodness! 23-21 in triple overtime.
It's complete wildness, madness. I love it. It makes me want to go up there and go crazy.
I mean, you can't fake that. I mean, you can't script that. That is Texas high school football, pure unbridled joy right there. And Joshua Owls, you get some flowers. Beating Midlothian, now you are the number 2 team in that district. And after what happened at Highland Park and Tyler High, you got to be looking. Why not us? We got some defense over here. We got a really good defense. So some really good flowers for Joshua. And how about, let's give some flowers to LD Bell. You said I wouldn't do it for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Good.
Coach Dibb was going to look at his office and say, who died in my family? Why is there so many flowers here? Well, that's 3 straight flowers from Dixie. Just look at the card. It says the same thing. Thank you for walking it off. Loved it.
That's more of a joke, but I do want to give some flowers to Byron Nelson because, again, we know what happened with them this offseason and the resilience they have. And that was one of the crazy scores we talked about. We were looking at halftime, and they were at Pennington up 31-0 on Trinity.
Yeah,
31-0. They were up more than South Lake Carroll was on them at halftime. I mean, just an absolutely incredible response. Byron Nelson is showing resilience and heart beyond what I could have imagined from this program. I got some more flowers for you, Byron Nelson. That was absolutely incredible. And one more bouquet, if you don't mind. I know you don't like when I do this, Ward. We got to go a little bit small school. Let's talk about the Commerce Tigers, because since I talked a little bit about it.
Right.
This is a team that should not be beating Winsboro.
No.
And it was 51-10 at halftime. 51-10 against my number one 3A team who was undefeated. They beat Honey. I mean, it wasn't like they played a bad schedule. They beat Honey Grove earlier this year. They beat Hooks the week before. I mean, this is a team that has been beating their East Texas powerhouses. Now they're in a DFW district, so they're starting to play our side of the world. Right. Commerce up 51-10, and a player, don't listen to this, Ward, just kind of plug your ears, but Aiden Brown, his statistics so far, and his coach updates it on Max Prep, so I'll have to find a way to use Aiden Brown as my quarterback at some point in this season. He's averaging 350 yards all-purpose, running the ball and throwing the ball, 4 touchdowns a game against really good competition now. Man, Commerce.
Did they shoot up in your rankings? They had to shoot up.
Commerce. They didn't make the rankings. They were not going to be ranked this week.
Oh, my goodness. And now they are.
That's because – they're not, because everybody else in 3A, you still got Malakoff and Grandview and Peaster, and I mean, where are you going to put them? Because
where do we fit them?
Now they beat Malakoff. Okay,
they got to keep winning.
We'll talk about it later.
They got to keep winning in order to do that. By the way, going back to that flowers for LD Bell and the Byron Nelson game, you know what? If Trinity doesn't get the injuries, because I hear Meredith and Harris didn't play, if they don't get this and they slip up one more time, that game against Bell at the end of the season. I mean, you might want to drive there at 4:30 to make sure you get yourself a seat. You want to do that anyway because of the rivalry. This thing could be for a playoff spot. It could be keeping one team in, one team out. It could be mean a wide variety of things that it hasn't meant in quite some time.
I remember 2 years ago, just when that game meant nothing really, in the big picture. LD Bell was just a little bit better, but that place was packed. I mean, it looked like a playoff game. That the HEB atmosphere. Bell is just waiting for a winner, and they've got one now. And I mean, their band has been great, and I know they've always supported their band, but now they've got a 5-0 winner, and nothing brings the alumni out. I mean, Tommy Maddox will fly in wherever he's at to come watch a chance to beat Euless Trinity. That is an absolute fun one.
Absolutely. All right, the flip side of the flowers is the shovels. Who gets the shovels this week?
Well, the first one is going to go to, and I understand that there's a little bit of dissension among our production crew on this one, but I'm giving the first shovel to Flower Mound.
I'm not going to
Would you like to speak on behalf of the production
We don't
crew?
deserve any kind of flower. I mean, I talk to everybody. Shovels? No. No shovels. Just give them the small one, a hoe. I shouldn't have said that. But give them something small. They're going to fight their way out of this thing. You can't shove them this. Yeah. You can't shove them this early unless you're willing to shovel your Plano East Panthers. We shoveling them because they can't even win.
They're 0-5, and I'm as optimistic as I've been about them all year. That's crazy. I view things with flowers in my eyes. My problem with Flower Mound is what happened in that Louisville Marcus game. Marcus looks like they figured it out. Everything I asked for last week in the game when I gave that game preview, except for a fourth quarter defense, they gave it to us. They gave Nussmeier support. They got the run game going on, defensive side of the ball. Louisville is special right now. I bumped them up to number one just because the fact that they beat Rockwall and Marcus the way they did it, they're showing me those intangibles that I haven't seen from Louisville in a while. But you got Hebron looking solid. You got Marcus looking solid. Where's Flower Mound going to get the 2 wins out of that 5?
Well, they'll get Marcus because what happened to Marcus in the fourth, first of all? How are you going to hold Louisville to 6 points for 3 quarters, and then they don't have the stick-to-itiveness to finish that thing out, and they give up 27. So that's the big Mound showdown right there. They're going to have a crazy place there, and then they'll get somewhere. I'm not going out on a limb on anywhere else. Yeah, I'll get them on Hebron too. How about that? Where are you Plano East going to get their 4 wins?
We got McKinney Boyd this week. Then we got
it's a
McKinney.
tough one.
They got Prosper Rock Hill, and they got Plano.
Stuff.
You get those 4 wins, you're in.
You can't get those 4 wins. Chance Cawley's right there. Cully.
He is. He hurt you this week.
Yeah,
but he won't hurt me. Yeah, that's okay.
Well, he hurt me pretty badly to the point where I almost had tears. All right, let's get to some games. You ready? Or unless you have another shovel. Oh, you got another shovel? Okay.
Burleson Centennial. We're giving Burleson Centennial
they're done?
shovel.
That's a wrap for them.
They beat Cleburne 16-14, and we've just talked about this district with Midlothian, Red Oak, Joshua, Tyler High, and Highland Park. Where's their wins in that district?
Yeah, there's no space.
They got to get 2 more. I don't see it. They got the shovel.
There's no space for a team that can only get 16 against Cleburne. Not in that mess.
No.
Now, if they get 66 on Highland Park, then I'm not coming back on this show. I won't know what to do anymore. All right, now we'll get to some games, and we'll start with some Thursday stuff at Toyota. He's back. Davion Gross is back. And now you're in trouble because that was one of the 4 teams that we talked about in Friday Night Recap is clicking on all cylinders. That's not falling into this parity deal because them and Allen, South Lake Carroll, maybe South Oak Cliff, and Lone Star now has a absolute weapon that any Frisco IST could not survive with losing. They survived and flourished with him not on the field. Now he's back on the field, and they got those Raccoons. How are the Raccoons going to stop this crazy offense?
They're not. That's the problem with this game is that Frisco Lone Star looks incredible. This is what I keep talking about from that rainout week. I really wish we would have got to see Frisco versus Melissa. It would have given us so much more insight into Melissa. It would have given us a little bit more insight if Frisco is going to be able to play with the big dogs in their district. But man, I think it's not even that I'm down on Frisco. It's just that Frisco Lone Star is looking at that such an elite level. They got so many weapons. It's like they made a point. They're like, let's target Davian. He's been out for a couple of weeks. We got to make it a point to target him. He got 9 catches. You don't see many situations where a high school player will be targeted as much as Davian Gross does. And he just takes a little post and goes 30, takes a little, a deep ball and goes 60. He is just an absolute weapon. And that we keep ignoring the fact that the kid who got 5,000 yards last year, Carice Hoyt, is almost like a not a backup player, but he's just support, at this point for all of the tools. He is a weapon ready to show out any given week. I mean, it's like you figure out, okay, we got to put all of our attention on Gross. Here comes Hoyt. We're going to do Hoyt and Gross. Here comes Trey Wright. I mean, it is just weapons galore. It's almost unfair, 5A Division I. But the crazy thing is, I think Frisco Lone Star's got a pretty easy route into the state semifinals. But when you look at Region 1, you got Aledo or Denton Ryan coming out of that, who is really defense-oriented. Right. It is just going to be a fun styles matchup.
That'll be a fun one for sure. I think I'm going to go check this one out. I haven't seen Lone Star this year myself, so I'm going to go at least see half of it. Natural grass, it's always nice to see a game on natural grass, so we'll go check that one out. And then the other Frisco game that's on Thursday is Lebanon Trail against McKinney North, which you may have convinced me to go to as well. Now try to convince the people by telling us why this one might be a competitive game.
Well, first of all, we only have 8 games on Saturday, on Thursday. So
you're
a little bit limited on if you want to go to a Thursday game.
What if you want to see Walnut Grove put a foot in somebody?
Yeah, I mean, we got Anna against Frisco Independence or something. That's like a 70-point favorite, 70-point. There's a lot of 70-point favorites on Thursday. Your game is like 2 big dogs that are playoff teams, but there's still a 35-point, kind of a differential there as what I would expect. This game, I think it's a 1-2 score game, and I like competitive games. I mean, these are 2 teams that are probably not going to be playoff teams, but I like a competitive game. I've heard a lot about Lebanon Trail having 1 or 2 really talented freshmen who have stepped up and are like must watch players. McKinney North just seems to have not figured out their traction after graduating Gregard and some of the big dogs that they lost last year. So I think it's going to be 2 teams who are desperate. You got to get a win. If you want any chance of slipping in to that last fourth playoff spot, this is a shovel game. This is you lose and you're out. So I think you're going to see an intensity and a resilience, which makes it one of my games of the week. I think you're going to see a lot of points being scored, but McKinney North, I think, will pull it out. But I love fun games. It's kind of reminds me of Creekview and North Mesquite last week. Just 2 teams that are not necessarily regionally great, but they're going to be competitive with each other, and I think it's going to be fun.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye on that while I'm over at Lone Star. And if mine gets carried away and this one doesn't, well, roll over to Star, see what's going on there in the second half. I've been known to do a 2-fer now and then. Did one last week out in Terrell to Forney. Although Forney had some suspect parking out there at the new North Forney. I had to walk 5 football fields to get there, And I'm a big boy, man. I don't like to walk that much. But I did it, and I got to see Legend Bay, which I hadn't seen yet this year or ever. So that was pretty cool. All right. Let's go small school because there they are. Commerce just finished with the butt kicking in Winsboro. Malakoff's on the schedule. We know what you think about Malakoff. You supported them almost more than you support Plano East, the way you talk about him on this deal. So talk to me about how this one's going to be competitive now.
Like I said, the last 2 weeks, you go back to 2 weeks ago, and the surprise we were talking about when we had our opening segment, our cold open, as they like to call it on SNL, was that Malakoff out of nowhere beats Grandview. And it's like, what is going on? This was a team that was 1-2. We had written them off, and we're like, they're done. And they just dominated Grandview with a solid defense. And then this week, Grandview goes back to Longview Spring Hill, a 4A school, and puts up 65 on them. So it's not like Grandview, something wrong with them. That's just Malakoff. And then you got Commerce. Now I hear the whole litany of excuses from Winsboro, like, oh, our best 2 players are gone. If your best 2 players are gone and that's all you got, that's a little bit suspect for me. But,
right.
I talked about Aiden Brown for Commerce. Man, like 900 yards passing, 800 yards rushing. I mean, he has been incredible. But it looks like he's it. He's the one-man show. I think Malakoff can stop one player. So I think Malakoff is going to bounce back. But this is a coming-out party for Commerce. If Commerce can win this game, they're in my rankings. They could be regional threats at that point. I mean, that's how parity-driven 3A Division I is. It's like a team that comes out of nowhere. This is like the Walnut Grove. If they can win this game, they're kind of looking like that Walnut Grove right now. And all of a sudden, those country roads may be heading a little bit north of Greenville.
Absolutely. And there's goals for these teams, right? Goals are always district title, getting far in the playoff state title. But for teams like Commerce, there's another goal. Get in Diggs rankings. That'll be the first one. Once you do that, then you work on something else. So they're looking forward to getting in the rankings. All right, this is our game of the week. Aledo versus Denton Ryan, which is probably going to be the first of 2. It usually happens that way. Aledo's won 130 straight district games. Somebody's got to knock them off. Why not Denton Ryan?
Well, they did it last year in the playoffs, and they return quite a bit. One of my biases when I get into talking about these teams is I love talking about the offensive side of the ball because it's easy. You can go pull out stats, big eye-popping numbers. Our fantasy football, it's about how many yards you can get, how many touchdowns you can get. But both these teams are so loaded on the defensive side of the ball. For Aledo, 3 players that have stood out to me in watching some of the tape: Lamel Swanson, Cooper Cyphers, and Chase Wilburn. For Denton Ryan, Damari Ruth, Errol West, Karan Freeman Wade, and your guy, Uzziah Warmate. I mean, these Cookie, as I think they call them on the team. I mean, these have it is going to be a slugfest. I just want to watch the offensive line versus the defensive line on both sides of the ball because it is going to be a battle. Aledo's got a lot of questions on the quarterback side, but their running game has been really good so far. And if they can get Caden Finley out in space, he is a game changer. But then Ryan's got Quinn Hennigan, and I feel like finally against Granbury, I saw the complete effort. So it made it even harder because then Ryan, you look at kind of their progression of games this year with Northwest Eaton. There's been some head scratchers, but that is just what I keep going back to. Aledo, they played Denton Geyer, very strong. Week 1, they played at a high level. Denton Ryan is still looking like they're working their way into the season. I think Denton Ryan on paper's got more talent, but I was actually surprised. I thought it would be the other way, where I thought Aledo would be more likely to lose early and then come back and win the late game. I feel like it's the other way around now. I feel like Denton Ryan is still struggling to find their footing in the season. So I think Aledo's going to keep that district streak going. They're going to go over to Denton Stadium, Collins Stadium. And I think they're going to make a lot of they're going to break some hearts in Denton.
Unbelievable. You just can never give Denton Ryan a break here in this deal. We'll see. You
saw my picks. I had them number 1 to start out the preseason. But they quickly just broke my confidence. Disappointed.
Well, another team that's a little bit disappointed, despite scoring 68 points last week, is Seguin, because they let a Colony player be the trivia question: who scored the first touchdown at Gillespie Stadium? They let him do it, and then they went ahead and let Chevy Andrews do what he does, which was dominate all over. I think he scored 4 or 5 touchdowns. They're dual threat. They're up at R.L. Anderson actually against Timberview. Tell me your thoughts on this one, because this is one of these districts, 3-5A Division II. There's a handful of them where you feel like every game there's like three or four games in this district when they play each other. It's going to be something special.
Timberview is one of those teams that I had to kind of get called out on the dump, that I had to do a little bit more research on. And unfortunately, this happens when you got 100 games you're covering where things go a little bit. Because I actually gave a shout out to Plano East and Prosper, that I thought Prosper had really good game management of the second half. Prosper was up 42-7. They could have had whatever score they wanted to, but they liberally rotated, and made it a competitive game to where their kids could get reps, Plano East kids could get reps. That happened in the Timberview game, but I didn't necessarily see that at first. I saw the final score against Everman, 45-28, and Timberview showing me a little bit there. But that game was 35-7 at one point. A lot of Everman's points were in the second half, so that's on me for not digging in the box score a little bit more. I said, well, Timberview showing me a little bit of shakiness. Yeah, that's fourth quarter, kind of backup management there. And Timberview, they might not have the depth that second and third team that Prosper or Allen or some other teams do that have to do that. But there's not much of a drop off. For Timberview, there is a drop off. Their depth is a little bit of an issue. So don't, ignore what I said on the dump and don't let that fool you. I think Timberview is showing me the defensive side of the ball is solid. It's the offense is what's got to get you excited, that the offense is finally kicking in a little bit. Seguin has shown defensively that they can give up some points, but their offense has been great. So again, their offense against Timberview's defense, I don't think their offense is as good as Argyle and some of the other elite offenses, Colleyville Heritage, which they've already seen. So I think Timberview is going to take care of business. Seguin, remember that Grapevine game? It was like they struggled to get going in that game. Now you go against Timberview's defense. I think they're going to struggle in this game. Give me Timberview.
Give them Timberview. Seguin's another team that doesn't have a ton of depth either. Go back to 3-5A Division I. I'm interested in why this one's on we've done these call lists throughout all of our podcasts. I've never seen Denton on it. Even when Coach Atkinson was over there, I didn't see him on it much. But tell me why Denton's on here against Brewer.
I mean, they only have a college coach now as their head coach, and Coach Beatty at Denton High. And a lot of people who I talked to thought that Denton High was going to need about 2 years to kind of, let his culture kind of come in and figure things out. Just in what I've seen, they look like they're ready now. And Brewer playing Azle, that game was so back and forth. It was 63-42. But there was a point where that game was like 42-42, and Brewer scored the last couple of touchdowns. I feel like this is going to be the good litmus test to let us know where Denton is at. This is one of those games like with Princeton and other teams this year. I don't have the courage to pull the trigger on it, but I want to alert you. It's on my radar as a potential upset. I think Brewer is going to win, but just like Princeton going 4-0, beating West Mesquite didn't surprise me, even though I didn't have the courage to pick it. This is one of those games where if Denton wins, I'm not going to be surprised either. But I just don't think, given that a very weak non-district schedule, I don't think they're ready to take that next step in this district. But Coach Beatty, he's been there. He's done that. He gets to share a maturity with the kids and a consistency. I don't think they've had it at Denton High in a while, even with Coach Atkinson. So I think that Denton is playing over their pay grade right now. And if they can do that against Brewer, avoid the turnovers, they can beat Brewer. But Brewer offensively, they look like the real deal. So Denton's going to have to bring those track shoes on and get everything kind of close to the vest. Don't make any mistakes. But I like Brewer as my official pick because I got a guy named Wizzy over there who's up on me in the gossip pick'ems. I can't give him a game. I just can't give him a game. I got to go with the favorite. But Denton's definitely a team I would love to take. I'll love to see an upset pick on.
I don't think you have to worry about not catching me. You'll catch me at some point. All right, Lovejoy and Melissa, if we play the he beat him, but then him beat him, and this guy got this guy game, Lovejoy got smacked around by Anna, and Melissa went up there and beat Anna. So Melissa should beat Lovejoy. This is simple. This is the old math. Now you give me the new math on how Lovejoy is going to win. Are you sticking with the old math?
Disagree. A is greater than B. B is greater than C. Therefore, A is greater than C. And the way that Melissa is winning right now, just running the ball, playing tough-nosed defense, and you say, well, they give up 34. I mean, Anna's going to score their points. I mean, they are really talented. But it was the way that they were able to have critical stops and situations. I just don't think Lovejoy, unless, my challenge, they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. game, who is going to be the other person other than Jacob Janicek? They need some help. I don't see it. If they found it, maybe this game will be more competitive. But otherwise, I think it's going to get out of hand. I think Melissa should be, on paper, a 4-score favorite in this game.
All right, well, let's talk about Seagoville and Spruce, because this is one of the teams. We had counter scores coming out of our Friday night recap. We had Hillcrest lose it to Spruce, and then I saw recently that Hillcrest beat Spruce 14-12. Either way, Spruce has played them tight, and now Seagoville's playing tight. And these guys want to get in the postseason. Everybody's ignoring this district because Sox running away with it. But there's teams that want to get in this postseason here. Is this a game where one of them can be either bowed out or stamp their foot down?
This is one of the crazier districts. We were talking about just the parity. This district is like the epitome of it, because going into it, we would have been like, okay, well, we got South Oak Cliff. That's our tier 1 team. And then you got, our usual suspects. You got Woodrow Wilson, you got Hillcrest, and, okay, maybe Samuel, Seagoville, one of those two teams will get in there. We don't know what Samuel's got coming back from last year. Remember, they were like 8-0 at one point, but then they had to forfeit a lot of games. And, but a lot of those kids are now eligible. So, okay, we get to see that situation. Every week in this district, something crazy has happened. You got Hillcrest, you got Woodrow Wilson, Seagoville, Spruce, and Samuel. You got 5 teams now battling for 3 spots. And all of those games have been like 2 or 3 point margins so far. Yeah. So this game, I think Spruce has a chance. This is Spruce, who I had at number 8 in this district at one point, can, with this win, potentially get themselves in the playoffs. They got some Plano East love over there, and Coach Benedetto will tell you that he, found his heart at Spruce, and that's kind of where he came up from. So anytime Spruce does well, from Spruce to Woodrow Wilson, we find that good Plano East spot in our heart for that. I love seeing when you have a team like Adamson or Conrad who are just down and have, or Carter Riverside. Polytechnic are some of my favorite teams that take that next step. It is so hard to pick against Seagoville, who actually had a big win over Samuel this past week. I'm going to take Seagoville, but the fact that Spruce could stay within 2 points of Hillcrest, that lets me know that they just need a turnover award. If they can get that one turnover against Seagoville, I think that they could steal a win here. And all of a sudden, we're talking about the Spruce Timberwolves in the playoffs. Man, that's going to be fun.
That'd be something. Yeah, there's teams, Woodrow and Hillcrest, like you said, they may have beat these teams, but they were in a battle like they may have not been in past years. All right, this one's you kind of spruced my interest on this one. So I'm still jacking around with my schedule. Obviously, by Thursday when this airs, I won't be. But this might be one to go to, because North Mesquite obviously showed you something against Creekview despite the loss. And Newman Smith, when they lose, it's an ugly sight. But when they're playing well, is this a team is this on upset watch?
When they win it, it's an ugly sight. It's like you got the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing here. They're up 65-0 at halftime, or they're down 65-0 at halftime. North Mesquite, it was so hard to watch because it was a fun offense. I mean, we're going triple option. You don't know who's they get in space. They could do some crazy things. They gave up 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Otherwise, their defense was playing okay, relatively speaking, for the talent that they were going. But it's like they just got tired. Just the physicality of that triple option wore themselves out in the second half. And I don't know if you told me how that walking for 5 touchdowns over 5 football fields kind of wore you out going to North Forney. Do you think you're better this week?
Yeah. I was going to say I'd probably be worn out going back and forth to that North Mesquite Creekview game. But
I'm just saying, but would your cardio be better if you had to go do it this week? You think in 1 week you could completely turn that around?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready for it now.
You couldn't. And I don't think they can either. That's my only concern with North Mesquite. Their frontline players are really good and good enough to win this game. I think they're going to keep it close for a half, but I don't think they can go 48 just because of that the conditioning. But from what I saw, they're good enough to beat WTY. And maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe they're going to be on the old Peloton or something, on the elliptical this week, because they're tired of Diggs calling out their conditioning. But I think Newman Smith will take care of business. I think it's going to be a shootout because North Mesquite looks like they can score for a half on at least the everybody other than West Mesquite in this
right.
district. But even in that West Mesquite game, it looked like, it was like 28-14 at one point, and then it got away from them. Right. And then the Creekview game, it got away from them. I think it's going to be like that as well. But if you make it your first half, I think you'll get some good highlights. Interesting.
And if I go to Mesquite Memorial, it's always the first half because I got to have my meal. Gotta have my meal. They hook you up nice in Mesquite. All right, listen, Red Oak had the week off, and Braden Robinson turned on this Highland Park game. He called his buddy Billy Middleton over there, and he's doing this stuff. It's like, give me this ball 20 times. If they're scoring 66 on them, if Tyler's scoring 66, you throw that ball to me, you give me 20 targets, and we're going to have some fun. But some of these games, they don't have fun. That I'm thinking about week 1 where they only won 20-11. They haven't connected to all that. They haven't been consistent, basically. And you can't beat anybody in Highland Park. Well, somebody said you can. Rodney Webb said you could beat somebody at Highland Park. So what do you think here? I mean, are they going to show us anything, or is Highland Park they're getting it from Randy Allen this week? I know during practices. He's giving them the business. The DCs are giving them business. I think Red Oak might be in trouble, but they're probably chomping at the bit right then to see that score.
You said it all. I think the coaches are going to chew on them this week because it really feels like Highland Park should have won that game handily. They're up 35-7, and they got in their own heads. They started kind of reading our own press clippings. We're out here in East Texas. We're at Rose Stadium. We're just giving it to them, man, and it's all good. But we know one thing about Tyler is they don't give up, even when it looks bad. That is a program that understands. There are 2 programs in the state of Texas that understand a little bit about that, mine and theirs.
Yeah.
From one game, it's the historians.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Highland Park did not watch the history of that to understand that you cannot. There is not a point where you can feel comfortable about a lead at any point in the game. So I feel like that was just a game where momentum, it's like that snowball started running downhill and they couldn't stop it at that point. I think it gets all corrected at home. I think they're going to have a big performance. I think they're going to answer all of the questions and then some. The defense is going to be lit up in practice this week. I like them big.
I like them big in that one. I can see that too. What about Joshua and Tyler? So now Tyler's coming off of that. Joshua's seen the tape too. They've seen the tape of Joshua. They're both, Tyler lost, but they're still feeling like they're riding high a little bit because that second half they won. Talk to me about this one. And like we talked about, like I heard you talk about in the warm-up, 7-5A Division I is kind of all out there now. Some teams can beat here. Obviously Highland Park's probably going to win this thing. But as far as playoff spots concerned, one of these 2 teams could get in there.
Absolutely. And when you only have 6 games, you're only looking at having to win 3 to get into the playoffs. And Joshua's already got 1, and they got one on Midlothian. So that's a Midlothian that has to win an extra one now to try to get that back. And they're going to be, I know they're going to be cheering for Tyler high on this one to hopefully get that back. A couple of weeks ago, Gossett highlighted a defensive player for Joshua named Cade Boone. He had 3 interceptions against Irving MacArthur. And Irving MacArthur now is looking like they got some things figured out with their offense. So all of a sudden it's looking like, okay, maybe Joshua was just that good to make, Irving MacArthur look that bad in that game. And then, we heard from Coach DeArmond. He's like, well, don't forget about Braden Payne, who's, excellent leader at quarterback. Don't forget about Esteban Salas, a tough runner between the tackles. You got to watch those guys as well. But what I like about Joshua is the defensive side of the ball to shut Midlothian down 21 points in 3 overtimes, no points in overtimes. That says a lot about that defense. And I think they're going to be playing at a high level. Coach DeArmond, they got the chip on their shoulder. They were made fun of. They were mocked for being the team that opted up and to want to be in this district. Right. And he has got them focused. I don't think Tyler High is going to get that 66 points. And they got to go to Joshua. So, when you have these East Texas DFW games, home field matters. And we'll talk about it with like Longview and Rockwall. Where you're at matters when you're playing those games. The fact that game's at Joshua and having that big win, give me the Owls hoot for a second win.
And that's the journey too, man. It's like we talked about with 7-5A Division I. That was a hodgepodge district thrown together. They're going to be driving for days. They're probably get to see 2 movies on that drive over. All right, let's talk about 10-6A. We always tell you we're going to give you 2 or 3 games out of 10-6A. We're going to give you 2. This one could be fun. This one could be 70-66. So I'm watching these teams, stellar offensive players, not so much on defense. Your thoughts on this one?
They have stellar offensive players, but when they play good defenses, they seem to, it's like they forget who they are.
But that's what I'm saying. These two aren't playing good defenses. They're playing
They're not. They're playing each other, which is going to be kind of that fun element with this game. It is going to be a track game. Man, Forney just – I watched them against Lake Highlands. They looked great in that game. Like things were clicking. They had some mistakes. They had some youth. It's like you got a D1 kid next to maybe a backup on Allen's team. It's like the depth is kind of haphazard with Forney. Whereas with Royce City, we talk about their sophomores. I feel like they just don't know how good or bad they can be, and it's going to be week to week. It's going to be homecoming and homework and just so many elements with these sophomores right now where they're going to play up and down. But they don't know any better. But I feel like if this game were at home, I think that comfort level. But Forney is one of those places that is, relatively speaking, in suburban area, it's a hard place to play. I mean, Forney will pack out their stadium, and I think that's just a little bit of the intangibles is why they're going to win a 56-49 kind of a game. I would love to see Royce City win just at that personal level, but this is like a shovel game. I'll call it now. You lose this game, either team, you're done. You'll be on our cold open next week if you lose this game. So it is a must win for both teams.
And the winner's on thin ice anyway, because you still got to deal with Heath and North and Rockwall and Longview. You got to deal with those two too. Seems tough for me for Rockwall. You got Longview coming off of 2 significant losses and a bye. So they stewed on it for 2 weeks, and they see Rockwall having all the roses thrown their way because they beat North Crowley. They put up 48 on Royce City, and they're thinking they're on top of the world here. Is this? Are you going to sit here and tell me Longview's going to come in there and beat them because of those factors, or what are you telling me?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it.
Next game.
But Ruston and South Oak Cliff are elite football teams that are likely favorites to win state. Now, I don't know what happened with that Iowa Colony Randall game and how that factors into the DFW area. And I know people were very raving about that game and for different reasons, like, look at these just 2 powerhouse teams. This is not weakness. This is not bad football at a high level. This is good football at a high level. And hearing that, you kind of have to be worried about Sauk, who might not have the hardest route to get there, whereas, these teams are playing at that high level. But South Oak Cliff has had 2 straight years where they haven't won the state championship. They've now had 2 straight years where they beat Longview. Longview had these 2 loss streaks going into district, and they just persist week in and week out. Playing Ruston, playing South Oak Cliff, it's going to get them ready. And more specific to Rockwall, we saw what Louisville, with a very physical defense, did. Rockwall looked lost at times against Louisville. It's like they just 3 and out, like they couldn't figure anything out. Right. I think Longview is going to have that level of defense that's just going to fluster Rockwall. When Rockwall is good enough to have their way, when Rickard is able to have time and find his progressions and go downfield and use the running game, they look amazing. But when it doesn't happen, it gets away real quick. And I think that's kind of how these matchups are going to be in 10-6A. When Rockwall's playing Heath and that in Forney and Royce City and the defenses aren't as great, it's going to look, like, hey, we can score 50. When they're playing North Forney and Longview, got some questions there. Right. And I think this is one of those games where there's going to be those questions there. I think Longview, big bounce back win.
All right, over in 3-6A, Lake Ridge, they're done with their non-district. They had their bye. This could be another one of those Royce City Forney types where there's going to be a lot of point scores. Because, yes, Lake Ridge is 3-1, but they gave up 4 touchdowns or more in every game. We know what Mansfield defense gives up, and we know what they can do offensively as well with Zion. This could be a fun little affair over there at Newsom.
Yeah, but I just think about that Arlington Martin game, and then I see how Arlington Martin has played in district. I thought that was their turnaround game.
Right.
I feel like Lake Ridge has got it figured out. And, I mean, you did the feature on it. It is like 6-on-5 with the offensive line with Felix. I mean, it is like he is so dominant. He can push he can push the defensive line and the linebacker, and Jaden Cotton and Robinson and a couple of their really the quarterback and their running back are playing at a very high level. They got the confidence. They don't realize they were 0-20 the last 2 years. It's like the Coach Thor has got them buying into this program and building back. I think this is Lake Ridge's coming out party in the district sense. I think they're going to be a number 2 team in this district, and I think you got to win this game to be that, and I think they are. I think they win this convincingly. I got them by 21.
Interesting. All right, well, with that defense, I wouldn't doubt it over there at Mansfield. All right, this one could be the battle of the 2 best unsung running backs in DFW with Brendan Gleam over there at LD Bell, and we talked about Sala many times at Northwest. Northwest is sitting on a 1-3 record, I believe, but 2 of them are 1-point losses. Another one's a touchdown. But LD Bell, how are you going to win it off? Should we make wagers, side gentlemen bets on how they're going to win it as they walk off? Maybe a safety. Maybe Northwest is going to punt it away to go into overtime. And they shoot it over their head. Lose by 2.
I was so disappointed. I was refreshing this game furiously because it was one of those games that had pick'em ramifications, and I believe, you may have seen the tweet, or I could be just hallucinating like AI does sometimes, but I feel like they sent out Matcham to kick a 65-yard field goal at the end of the game, but then they decided not to and just go into overtime. They didn't want to risk, a block. What would that, like, we've been playing the videos, like go out and do a 65 or 67-yard walk off, but instead they had to get a 2-point conversion and triple overtime to do it. But this doesn't get any easier because Northwest, Eaton, Keller, they're all kind of the same team, and we've seen that LD Bell hasn't been dominant against any of those teams, and Northwest has just been a little bit shorty in all of those games, and Northwest, their back end is where it is. This is a game where if for whatever reason Northwest wins, I don't think it helps them get into the playoffs, unfortunately for them, because they're still going to have to win against Trinity or Byron Nelson or South Lake Carroll to overcome some of their earlier losses. So I feel like LD Bell is in a good position, but they also have the confidence of knowing if it's fourth quarter, we're down by a score, we got this. And I think that intangible is so huge right now. Winning, momentum, all of those things. The coach has got them all bought in. Coach Dibble, as you talked about, 6-0 LD Bell award.
Remember that one time they went 6-0 and then they just lost everything. But let's not. If they get to 7-0, we can really start talking. All right, 5-6A are battling at the top there with Geyer against Capel. Capel gets the home. They're at home in this one, and they're facing some tough guys over there in Zane Rowe and Caden Cobbs over there. But I don't know, Capel. I haven't talked to Coach Wiley. I wanted to kind of do the interview for the warm up with him, but he never really got back to me. I feel like he's kind of just chilling in the wings, just waiting out there. Because I know you got both of your feet on the Capel train. You don't have one wavering out the door or anything. They're both on there. But I feel like he's looking around saying, oh, sweet, Rockwell beat North Crowley. By the way, we won again. Oh, what's going on over there? Waxahachie beat Duncan. We're still winning. We're still undefeated. But don't worry about talking about us. You can talk about us later. But now you can't go into the wings because you're going to play Geyer. You're going to eventually going to have to play Louisville. Tell me what happens in this one.
The confidence train, I felt obligated. I didn't want to do it, but I felt obligated because we have a little bit of calibration now that we saw what South Lake Carroll and Hebron did. And Capel did not beat Hebron the way South Lake Carroll did. And now, granted, nobody's beating teams the way South Lake Carroll is beating teams right now. But I feel like Capel had a chance to show me that they're elite. And they didn't quite do that. They beat Hebron. It's a solid win. I mean, if you beat Hebron by 2 scores, you tip your hat and say, yeah, but, Lancaster beat Hebron, so, I mean, by 1 score. So it made me a little bit worried about Capel. And now Saxe doesn't look right either. So Arlington Bowie is like their one win where you can go, okay. And I feel like Coach Wiley is just going to say, okay, doubt us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're happy with that. We're good with that. But Capel, I challenged a couple of teams with Lovejoy, and I challenged Marcus to have that second-level player step up. And I finally feel like against Hebron, we got to see Dylan McAfee be that second back to Jaden George to where Jaden George is hard to say sometimes. Jaden George. I just have to slow down, enunciate Jaden George. Carden, because Carter Zingelman felt like he had to do it all. Like he had to run for 150 yards, he had to throw for 200 yards. But now you got McAfee, you got George kind of running things out. Geyer, I feel like they're still looking for that player. Yeah, they got to beat around Flower Mound, but you know what? So did like Highlands and a couple other teams. I feel like this is where Coppell does what Coppell does, and I feel like this is where they come out of the shadows. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think it's just going to be another workman-like 7 to 10 point victory. And you know, like I feel like Denton Geyer, Coppell keeps winning these games. I mean, they've been undefeated the last couple of years. Denton Geyer beat Louisville last year, and they're like, hey, we don't like being disrespected this year. So Denton Geyer, I feel like, has a chip on their shoulder with this game. Right. But I think they'd have a better chance against Louisville early than Coppell early, because Coppell, they don't play that.
I'm just worried about the Geyer offense. I'm not sold on Zephyr Crow. I love Cobbs. I mean, I was sitting right next to his dad against North Crowley, and I was like, "Who am I watching? Caden or Kedrick? Which one is it?" He's like, "Yeah, Kedrick's up, or Kettrick's up in the stands, watching them. Don't they look exactly the same? I'm so glad he chose number 1 like his brother did. They look like the exact same player, and they do the exact same thing, which is initial hit's going to do nothing, second hit's not going to do anything, and eventually he's gone. But I'm not sold on Zephyr Crow yet. So until you get me a quarterback that can sell me on things, I'm going to be with you and go with Coppell.
And he's a sophomore, but we got 2 sophomores playing each other. So, you know, you got that going. Yeah, you got that going against you or for you, depending on your perspective.
True.
Whereas with Louisville, you got a senior who is knows how to win right now.
It almost sounds like you're predicting Louisville to win the district already. But your feet are on Coppell's bus, so I don't know what's going to happen. All right, this one might – we will find out where your head lies on the 17th when they play each other. Hebron against Marcus. This could be for a spot here. If we're thinking the other 3 are in, if whoever wins this one might be number 4.
This is for a spot. We will probably see the loser of this game on our cold open next week. Hebron's got to win this game. I mean, I just feel like Hebron, the way Marcus played and had that letdown, we saw Marcus' ceiling, but some inconsistency there. I don't think Hebron's going to have that. It's going to be a dogfight like all the Louisville ISD games are. I don't think it's going to have the drama of the Louisville Marcus game, but I think it will have the result where Marcus is going to be looking up at the scoreboard afterward saying, I think another one got away. Give me those Hebron Hawks to get that 4th spot, to get a little buffer win.
All right. And this next one is actually Channel 5's Big Game Friday one. So we will see Pat Doney up there. And I know everybody wants to meet Pat Doney. Everybody wants to meet him. Go there. He'll be there by like 4 o'clock doing all these shots. Plano versus Plano West. Tell me about the 2 Plano teams that aren't East.
Now I hear Pat is going to have a bit of an issue because when he's in Plano, everybody's going to be asking him, "Hey, do you know Diggsy? You know, can you get Diggsy's autograph for me?" Okay, poor guy is going to be like, "Hey, I'm the one who's on, NBC5 on
Leave
Sunday
me alone
nights.
while I put my
Diggsy.
makeup on." Diggs ain't putting any makeup on. I've never seen him put makeup on.
You could see a little bit of
a little shine. Who wins this one?
We finally saw what happened when Princeton didn't get 4 turnovers. It's like a completely different team. And then we saw what happens when Plano West doesn't get 3 turnovers in their game. In fact, they gave up the 3 turnovers. District 6-6A is literally week in, week out about who's winning the turnover battle. In Plano, because they've got Chance Cully and they just run the ball. They play smart football. I don't feel like they're going to have a game where they're going to have 4 or 5 fumbles on them. And that's what you have to get to beat Plano when you're in that crew. Plano West, they're going to try to throw it around. They're going to try to take advantage of some of the safety deficiencies in the back of Plano's defense. I think that's just going to lead to turnovers, and I think that's going to lead to a little bit of an avalanche. Again, it's going to be one of those ugly games in the 20s, but hate saying this word, give me the Plano Wildcats.
Okay, I'll give you Plano. As your new favorite team, you want me to give it to them? Is that? Oh, okay, just to win this game. All right.
But
fine.
If Plano beats West and they beat Princeton, when Plano East beats Plano,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Brother. All right, Wiley East Saxby. Me and you both found our way out to Wiley last year. I think only one of us is going to find our way out to HBJ, which is going to be me. You got Saxby here every single game. They're not blowing anybody else. They're not getting blown out. They're just playing football. And then last week, at one point, I thought Wiley East had lost to North Garland by some of these apps that I misread or was posted wrong, but they didn't. They'd handled them pretty easily. These guys aren't as much of a cream of the crop as they were last year, but they're still up there. So who wins this one?
I don't know if they are up there, Ward. I mean,
no,
this
the best
game,
team in there. Name it for us.
I mean, 9-6A is. We just talked about parity. 9-6A is like one of the epitomes of parity because Wiley East and Saxe are not the big dogs anymore. They are mortal. Wiley East was down to North Garland at halftime. And if Christian Hampton didn't get hurt, how that game would have, how would that have turned out? Could we have seen North Garland upset that? Saxe is the Princeton of 9-6A. On the other hand, they got 3 turnovers against Lakeview Centennial. They got 4 turnovers against Wiley, and they couldn't win that game. I feel like this game may show us that Wiley is now the number 1 team in this district. But remember, Wiley almost lost to North Garland. And I kept talking about how North Garland was the team, kind of the Princeton of that district as well, to keep an eye out. And they have shown why. But if their guys got hurt, that's what 9-6A is. It's like every week you got to step back, look what you got, look what's happening, how you perform. Wiley East should be a favorite, but if they go around and they mess around for a half like they have for 2 games against Lakeview Centennial and North Garland, and they lose a couple of turnovers, we saw that turnover fest last year in the first half against Saxe.
Like 4 of them, right?
I could see any outcome in this game. Wiley East wins more of those outcomes than Saxe. That's why I got to stick with that. But I can see how Saxe wins this game. If that Wiley East that comes out for the first half against Lakeview Centennial and the way they came up for the first half against North Garland, if that version of Wiley East comes out, they can't beat anybody, it feels like.
Right. Keep your eye on it. See what happens there. All right, it's that time of the show.
Yes.
I don't like it. Sometimes I love this time of the show. Sometimes I don't. This is one of the times I don't. I picked the running back for Wiley, Dalen Gordon, because I was like, they're playing South Garland. He should have a field day. And then the coaches were probably thinking, we're playing South Garland. We don't need to play Gordon because he didn't play. So that's a big 0 right there, but I wasn't going to win anyway. I didn't have what it took. You beat me. You were upset over 2 straight losses, and you put a 400-point beat down on me. Congratulations, Diggs.
That happens. I was mad. I mean, we had the last week where we both had over 700 yards, and you ended up winning on basically a Hail Mary at the end of the game as we're trying to figure out the winners with Aljor Miles coming in with 1 more yard than you needed. Oh, yeah, and I ran the ball 36 yards. Right. I'll blow out a little bit of extra credit for you. But everybody stepped up for me. I was very happy to see it.
Yeah, and I thanked him for it, by the way, when he was on the show. He was glad he could come through for me. All right, this week we're going to quarterbacks. Boo. I'm already feeling I'm behind the 8 ball, even though Trey Wright is terrific, and he's going to put up numbers for me. But Buck Randall throws up 400 every single week, except for the games that he gets shut down at halftime by Lightning. So I guess I got to hope for Lightning, right? I got to hope for Lightning at this Highland Park Red Oak game.
It's a district game, so no Lightning.
It won't matter. Lightning goes away, right? They deflect it. Dang it. All right, well, that was a good pick. I think both of us had good picks in this one, but, man, you're right. I can't
remember,
pick
you still got Buck Randall.
I don't have.
We made an executive decision. You get him up because you didn't get him for a full game. You can have him one more time. So keep that in mind.
That's good to hear. I'm going to keep that in mind because you'll definitely be seeing him at some point. All right. We got Trace Selden, the freshman for Plano East.
How do you say his name, by the way, Ward? Can you
Trace. I can confirm it's Trace.
And who was the center, the MVP center for the basketball team? You remember his name?
For Plano East? Oh, yeah, I know. It's DJ Hall.
Yeah, good. Just checking.
Very good on that. I don't know why my ding-dang dumb host said Tracy. That makes no sense. He'll learn one day. And I'm going with Brendan Gleam in one of the fastest games that's going to be out there. But against Northwest, I think that thing will be over 2.5 hours. Again, my guy's a big number getter. You're hoping that they don't split with – I guess they're not splitting with your boy anymore, are they?
No.
He's strictly defense.
Travis Agee playing defense. He's kind of a, thunder lightning, comes in for 5 to 6 plays just to spell him. They're feeding Trace right now. He's already got a UNLV offer as a freshman. I mean, this is a kid who's going to be getting a bobblehead in 2028, 2029, around there. He's a special player. Comes from NFL lineage. I mean, his dad went to Wyoming, played in the NFL. So I think because we're playing McKinney Boyd and it's a must-win, I think I'm going to get 200 out of him.
You think so?
But I think you get 200 out of Brendan, too, because it's going to be
he's going to get 300 out of him. 300. By the way, who was the receiver? Maybe you'll remember because you're a Plano East guy. We gave him a bobblehead because he made it one of the most magnificent catches I've ever seen, probably 7 or 8 years ago. What was his name?
I can't remember. Anderson,
okay.
I think was his last name.
His last name was Anderson. Excellent. All right, that's good enough. I'm glad you remember that part. All right, receiver-wise, I'm going with Lathan Lachelet from Prosper, and you're going back to your old your bread and butter. Life Oak Cliff, when things aren't looking good, he heads to Life Oak Cliff. Put it up there with Sakura Cooper. Am I right?
Their coach watches the podcast, so he knows when it's time up, and he appreciates it. He is so humble. He's like, I love that you talk about our kids and give us the love. It's such a genuine thing, so, and they support us, and they get us big fantasy numbers. So they got to play.
Guess what, Coach? 1 week this season, I'm playing your quarterback, receiver, and running back all in one game. And if you're watching the podcast, I want you to come through for me big time. Run it up, 78-0. I'm going to see what Lachelet can do.
The coach's son, so I'm sure that will not be a problem to get him all the reps that he can.
All right, well, we'll see how that thing turns out. Dixie, where are you going to be on Thursday?
Talked about it, Lebanon Trail versus McKinney North, and then Friday it is do or die, Plano East versus McKinney Boyd. Got to make this one happen, Ward. Got to get off that 0-5 because 0-6 is 0-done for playoffs.
You're going to have to get the shovel out for your own boys. I don't think you'd do that, though.
I wouldn't do it.
I don't think you believe in that.
But statistically, it would be done.
You do have a co-host, but you don't care about shoveling up his team like nobody's business.
I don't care about that.
All right, Diggs. We'll talk about Week 7 next week.
We're under an hour this week, Ward.
Under an hour. So
Spotify is going to give us a bonus this week. So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about every.
Suppose somebody's in an hour of traffic every time.
1980.
What are they supposed to do for their last 4 minutes?
Plano East went 4.
I'll see you next week, Diggs. Later.